It's been 6-7 weeks now.
Can you tell us, let me go back to your introductory statements. You speak of thousands being killed and executed under arrest by the Marcos administration. There is no one, not a single one, who has been executed while under arrest and under the pictures of Marcos, except one who was zero and who caused misery to thousands of our people, who was executed publicly. But beyond that, nobody has been executed. Torture, we have answered all the questions about torture.
My problem really is my sensitivity and worse, my Girl Scout mentality. And it doesn't seem to work in politics, because you become immediately a suspect and a threat.
Marcos is, first of all, a genuinely skillful, indeed often brilliant politician who was in his early phases a man of immense promise for the future of the Philippines. He has done some good things for the Philippines, but in destroying the orderly transitional structures of government in the Philippines, by extending his rule now in a very personal way for 18 years, and by creating some aspects of a dynasty, particularly with Mrs. Marcos, whom, as I'm sure you know, is the most controversial figure in the Philippines, he has created long-term problems for himself.
Yeah, we're dealing with the kind of dictator, the worst dictator the world has ever produced, even worse than Hitler. Because while Hitler nearly killed the Jews, he never killed his own people. While Hitler picked up Germany from the gutter, from the ashes of poverty, he made it the superpower that it was during his time. In the case of Marcos, he killed his own people, and he is bringing down the Philippines now to the gutter of economic poverty.
Speaking of militarization, particularly violations of human rights going on in the country, at the moment it has been going on, I would have no hesitation saying that the situation has gone from bad to worse. I would like to specify especially what we call the phenomena that has been going on during what we call martial law years. During martial law years, we were focusing our attention only on three phenomena, namely what we call arrest and detention, salvaging and disappearances. After the so-called lifting of martial law, all these phenomena had been stay on or keep on going, plus the fact that we have still to attend to what we call massacres, salvaging, hamleting, and other things going on in the provinces specifically. The victims of these phenomena run by the hundreds or even thousands in terms of what we call victims of
of martial law in 1972, the Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, has assumed unprecedented control over the life of the Filipino people. It has exercised that control with unmatched brutality, as evidenced by the hundreds of cases of arbitrary arrests, torture, disappearances, extrajudicial executions or salvagings, and massacres which have been reported. In the first 3 years of martial law, over 50,000 people were arrested under the emergency regulations. Almost all of them were detained without charge or trial. In 1975, Amnesty International reported that 71 out of 107 detainees interviewed in various prison camps were tortured. The second Amnesty International mission to the Philippines in 1981 received more reports of military abuses and confirmed that more people were becoming victims of human rights violations of the utmost gravity. Task Force Detainees of the Philippines, or TFD, has published 3 reports on torture. Disappear dates are disturbing manifestations of increasing military abuses and intensifying militarization in the country.
Sige yan. Kasi talagang ganyan ang ibig sabihin ng martial law. And the military mind is not used to dissent and debate. Diyan yes sir, yours but to do and die. Kaya hindi sila sanay doon sa mga taong namimiloso po sa free exchange of ideas. Because that's totally alien to the military mind, which is trained to obey blindly. Na pag dyan masyado ka nag-isip-isip, babanatan ka ng insubordination. And that is why in any decent democracy, talagang isinosubordinate ang military establishment to the civilian authority, which is more tolerant by definition, more open to exchange of views, including even inflammatory ideas. Pero in the military, that's just peculiar to that discipline. And that's understandable within that context. I mean, pag inuutusan ka sa battlefield, you cannot really debate and argue. I mean, kailangan sumunod ka na lang, hoping that your senior officers know what they are doing and telling you to do. So, itong nangyayari sa ating paghihirap is a natural concomitant of a military regime. When that was inflicted in 1972 and lasted for as long as it has, it was bound to develop a culture or even, a momentum of its own. So we are stuck with a monster now we don't know what to do with.
Martial law years, the military was thrust into a position of extreme political significance. For one, its share in total government expenditures soared astronomically. It retained a major share of the national budget even after martial law was supposed to have been lifted. As military expenditures grew, the armed forces expanded in number and size. From a force of 51,700 regulars in 1971, the military's manpower grew to over 275,000 today. This excludes the number of integrated national police, armed barangay brigades, the Citizens Army Reserve, and various intelligence agencies. There exist also a number of special combat units only loosely incorporated into the regular chain of command. The activities of these special units have given ground for concern. They are assigned to provincial, regional, or special commands, whose units often appear to be accountable only to their own commanders. The Integrated Civilian Home Defense Force operates as a civilian militia throughout the country. It is reportedly about 75,000 strong. In some areas, recruits are reported to include criminals and the personal bodyguards of powerful local figures. Irregular paramilitary groups, mostly religious, political, and criminal in character, are alleged to be under the command of the military. In Mindanao alone, the following paramilitary groups operate with government sanction: Rock Christ, the Lost Command, and the Rural Reformist Movement. Military expansion was not only limited to dramatic increases in state support. As the main partner for implementing martial law policies, the military was also allowed access to the sphere of business and government. The military's takeover of related industries, the steel industry in particular, has given it an economic leverage in the business sector. By 1978, the administrative and finance sections in certain government institutions had been placed in the hands of the military. In the local governments, the military was vested unprecedented power. This expanded role of the military laid down the foundations for the evolution and dominance of militarization in the country.
The mayor is here and the provincial commander is there. But the provincial commander has more power than the mayor. So this is what I mean by militarization.
Itong militarism is really scaring all of us. How do you make these generals who have been spoiled all these years go back to the barracks? Dahil nasanay na yan sa kama, hindi kusang pupunta uli sa sahig yan. Pag sinipa mo naman yan, babarling ka yan.
Militarization means arbitrary arrests and detention of all political dissenters.
Ngayon po, mayroong mahigit kumulang na 900 political prisoners all over the Philippines. Ang ilan niya ay nasa bikutan. Ang ilan ay nasa camp cramming. At sa iba-iba pa mga piitan dito sa Luzon, sa Visayas at Mindanao.
Militarization means harassment, sparing no one, not even members of the church. The latest harassment involved Bishop Puruganan of Isabela.
Well, you will do the search, but you should not enter any place unless accompanied by one of the sisters or one from the house.
After analyzing and reflecting on the supposed reasons for the raid, I find no other motive than harassment, really, of the church in Ilagan. And I believe the reason for this harassment of the church is the stand that we have taken, the thrust of the diocese, which is really the liberation of our poor, our oppressed and exploited people.
Mysterious disappearances of individuals have increased. A few have reappeared after grueling days in military safe houses, but many were never seen again. Many might never see the light of day again.
Nangaw kami sa missing person. Pinaalam nga namin sa kanila na noong Enero 28, itong taon na ito ay nawala. Ika-10 kalahati ng gabi. Hanggang ngayon hindi namin alam kung nasaan siya.
Of the many techniques of repression employed by the military, torture and salvaging become notoriously widespread. Not surprisingly, where there is strong resistance or where economic interests of multinational corporations are at stake, hamletting and mass murder are resorted to by the military.
May malawak na mga hamlet centers. Sa kasalukuyan ay mayroon ng 350 hamlet centers sa 11 probinsya ng Mindanao. At kinapapalooban ito ng mahigit na 250,644 persons na naroon sa hamlet centers. At ang fact-finding mission na ito ay dinaluhan ng mga manunulat, ng mga taong simbahan, ng mga professionals, mga abogado. At makikita natin sa hamlet centers ang paghihirap ng mga mamamayan na kung saan ay patuloy na pinahirapan ng mga militar sa pag-ugnayan nila sa kasalukuyang pamahalaan at ng mga multinational corporation.
Sa Santa Filomena, walang aani, sa alay ng lupa ang palay ay nakayuko. Tila bang sumusuko, nag-aandog ng buhay sa karit at kamao.
That's why I was saying that I don't think there's such a thing as what we call normalization. I know what Mr. Marcos is saying. And the opposite is true. There is a continuous violation of human rights in the Philippines. And I have no doubt that there are more that we have not interviewed, given what we call the safe houses and other places where the military does not like us to get into for research and documentation.
The government has failed to investigate many cases of human rights violations. Where investigations have reportedly been made, the findings have often not been released, nor have the culprits been subjected to disciplinary action. All these unavoidably lead to the conclusion that the government tolerates, even encourages such military abuses. In his visit to the United States in 1982, Mr. Marcos repeatedly emphasized his commitment to human rights and dismissed military abuses as isolated acts of violence committed by poorly disciplined military personnel.
Malaking kasinungalingan yon dahil among those na interview ng AI, kami. At yung Amnesty International, nanalo ng Nobel Prize yan, which you cannot get from a department store. Talagang investigasyong masusi bago bigyan yan.
Now, to say that there are no violations happening in the country will be a little out of what's really happening. The reports are documented, and they can be proved. The TFD especially and other organizations have recorded proof of this.
Providing legal sanction to the wholesale violation of the people's democratic rights is a lethal network of autocratic and anti-democratic laws. Chief of these is the 1973 Constitution, appropriately called the Marcos Constitution, which guarantees the martial law powers of Marcos under the Commander-in-Chief provision and his unlimited lawmaking powers under the transitory provisions and Amendment number 6.
Noong 1981, meron din daw inapprove ang mga tao na sa isang plebisito na those officials who obey the orders of Mr. Marcos cannot be sued. Ito yung tinatawag na immunity clause na kahit na nakapatay pa dahil ito nung magkaruling dito sa case ni Dr. Parong, may lingwahe doon na kahit makapatay ang military, hindi niya may didemanda kahit saan. Ano ang sinabi ng Korte Suprema? Kung ano mang gawin ng military sa national emergency raw na ito, ang magagawa lamang ng tao to trust and pray. Nang ginawa ng mga taga Cagayan de Oro, sila nagdasal, kinasuhan din ng contempt dahil bawal din daw magdasal at yan daw prayer rally, subversive din daw yan. Kaya ngayon, trust na lang.
Further institutionalizing the dictatorial rule of Marcos are more than 2,000 presidential decrees, general orders, letters of instructions, and the notorious secret decrees. The National Security Code and the Public Order Act empower Marcos and the Defense Ministry to order the preventive detention of progressive forces who are considered enemies of the state.
This, affecting much the life of our people, because sometimes the military is imposing, there is no democratic procedures, and we will just proclaim somebody and immediately pick you up and place you in these buckets. But if it is a civil government, that you are entitled to a writ of habeas corpus, then you have to prove that you are guilty, and there is a department of judges where you can complain that you didn't because of the
Repressive methods have been used by our Spanish, American, and Japanese colonizers. Repressive methods such as torture, hamletting, and extrajudicial executions have been employed extensively by American GIs in Vietnam. Parallels of repression abound in other third world countries. In the Philippines today, under the Marcos regime, the military has become a notorious political force. Under the guise of protecting national security and suppressing rebellion and subversion, the military has unleashed massive and continuing campaigns of surveillance, detention, torture, salvaging, and mass murder.
Kaya, if anything, we are all concerned na militarism will become more and more intensified, and there is a distinct possibility na magagaya tayo sa mga Latin America banana republics na may succession ng mga junta, mga generals na who probably are very good in killing people but maybe cannot run a sari-sari store.
As was the case during the Hook Rebellion in the 1950s, U.S. military assistance was fundamentally geared towards strengthening the counterinsurgency capabilities of the Philippine military.
Mr. Holbrook, why should the United States do business with Ferdinand Marcos? Amnesty International says he's tortured, he killed, he caused to disappear many Filipinos, not just during martial law, but they charged even after martial law was lifted. So why shouldn't the United States say enough?
Sam, you raise now the most difficult question the United States take in the Philippines.
Here is a country,
Our only former colony in the world, a country in which we have our two largest overseas bases of immense importance to our strategic position not only in East Asia and the Western Pacific, but stretching all the way across the Indian Ocean and to the Middle East. We need the Philippines, and the Philippines need us.
U.S. aid to Marcos has included the training and counterinsurgency of hundreds of armed forces officers in U.S. military schools. The CIA and U.S. aid have also jointly trained scores of military and police agents in surveillance, torture and psychological warfare. Between 1972 and 1975, 99 Filipino police agents graduated from these programs. In 1976, $800,000 was spent to train 251 Filipino officers, the seventh largest contingent among 40 participating countries. This military assistance represents the direct and concrete linkage of the U.S. government to the intensifying militarization in the Philippines. The presence of the U.S. bases is a clear manifestation of U.S. transgression of the Filipino people's national and democratic rights.
You have a right to decide your future. We have a right to decide our future. Gross, unjust, and immoral violation of the rights of the Philippines people to independence. They are instruments of imperialism and domination, not of equality and justice among nations.
Ito'y kahibangan na dapat hadlangan.
In the present decade. Although martial law was formally lifted and a new republic inaugurated in 1981, there have been no signs of real demilitarization. What has occurred instead is increased
General Marcos, as you know, sir, a few months ago we had one of your former political opponents, former Senator Benigno Aquino, here on this broadcast. He claims that he cannot come back to the Philippines for fear that he will not only be jailed but perhaps executed.
Convicted for murder, for sedition, rebellion, or subversion. He appealed his case to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court threw out his case. So now there is a warrant of arrest against him. He is also facing participation in the bombing incident that killed Americans. Now, that is a matter that he has to face up to. If he says that he wants to come back here, sure, by all means, he can come back. But for what? He has to face up to the facts of life. If he wants an amnesty, we will consider it. If he wants a conditional pardon, we will also consider it. He is not that important. It's only the Western press that is making him important. I don't know why. Apparently it is true that you are facing a possible death penalty in the Philippines. Under what circumstances would you go back then? I will go back because I think I'm innocent. And if Mr. Marcos would like to shoot me on that basis, so be it. Recommend violence, although I warned Mr. Marcos that if he does not lift this martial rule, which is the original institutional violence in my country, that is the original violence, so that the subsequent bombings are only the effect of the original cause, so that when Mr. Marcos increases this repression, he will only be increasing violence. The only way he can remove violence is to remove the original cause, which is martial rule. No, sir, I do not believe that political terrorism can be justified. But then again, I do say that sometimes there's a need for violence to liberate yourself from it.
So many courageous and freedom-loving Filipinos have fallen victim to the Marcos regime. It can no longer hide the fact that its hands are stained with the blood of countless political dissenters. As the fascist character of the Marcos regime continues to be exposed, the people's resistance has steadily grown in strength. The murder of former Senator Benigno Aquino Jr. on August 21, 1983, served to further draw out the Filipino people's disgust with the Marcos regime and cause their long pent-up anger to explode.
mga karapatang kinuha, ang dangal na dinusta ng mga palalo at berdugo ng lahi.